Hi, my name's Maddie, and welcome to episode number 11 of Off the Clock. And today, from Bonnie's Baseball, we're here with James Capellupo.
How's it going, guys? I'm James Capellupo. I'm a junior here at Bonaventure on the baseball team from Hilton, New York, and I'm excited to be here on the podcast.
Growing up in Hilton, what was life like for you outside of baseball?
I mean, it was pretty cool. I loved the people there. It's a great culture. So kind of just hanging out, going to other sporting events, working out a ton, doing a lot of stuff outdoors. Love to fish, love to hike. Friends like to hunt. I don't do that as much, but just love being outdours. So
Is
a lot
there
of
a
that.
favorite hiking spot, fishing spot you've been to?
For fishing and hiking, I would say Indian Hill. It's out on the east side of Rochester, more towards Fairport, but we'd go out there and fish and hike a lot, which is pretty cool.
Having an outstanding high school career and being so successful there, how did that shape your expectations for college baseball?
I mean, I kind of knew that it was going to be a different level of baseball. That it was going to be much higher level. Hitters going to be a lot better. So, I mean, I kind of came in with expectations like that, but obviously still is a shock when you get to that level. You're used to having so much success and, getting guys to chase pitches
Yeah.
that they don't swing at anymore at this level and, velocity that seemed like a lot to them in high school that now is kind of underwhelming to them or maybe just what they're used to,
Right.
especially when you first get to college as a freshman. So a lot of it's a strength thing, maturity thing, just having to get physically stronger, but also mentally stronger. And even having gotten hurt last year, that was still a little bit of a struggle. So this year, I feel like now having kind of gone through everything a college player can go through, I feel like I'm a lot mentally tougher and prepared to kind of go out and compete at the highest level this year.
And you go from being the best in high school and playing
Right.
with the best of the best. So you gotta compare and contrast and either stay the same at your greatest level or keep going up.
Right, right. So I feel like I'm in a good spot this year. Freshman year, I had a good season for sure. Not as good as I was, used to in high school,
Yeah.
but still had a pretty realistically good season. And then coming into last year with really high expectations, it was a bit underwhelming having gotten hurt and not being able to finish the season. But this year, I feel like I'm, from a pitch design standpoint, the best pitch I've ever been. And I'm just trying to get my velocity back to where it was pre-injury, and I'm getting close. So
There
I'm in
you
a good
go.
spot mentally and physically right now.
Out of high school, your recruiting process, what was that like?
It was pretty cool actually. It happened pretty early on.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't super great as a player early. Like I was probably better basketball player my entire life pretty much. And then middle school came around and I started kind of getting more skilled at baseball, but the biggest thing that was lacking was a strength element. So I was tall, kind of scrawny, just kind of like awkward, not super strong. So someone said, "Hey, if you put a bunch of weight on, you might be able to have a ton of success as a pitcher." So I actually ironically gained 50 pounds in 6 months, which not the healthiest approach, but
You
kind of
did?
almost, yeah, became addicted to gaining weight, getting stronger, and my velocity went up like 10 miles an hour in like a 6 month span. And like in a year, it was
Wow.
like I went from like 72 to 86. So all of a sudden, I went from someone that was just, reasonably skilled but nothing crazy, into all of a sudden, I got my first Division I offer as a freshman,
There you
and
go.
ended up committing early as a sophomore to UMass Lowell, and didn't have any Power Four offers, but had a multitude of mid-major type school offers, and it was a good fit financially, which was a big concern at the time. So ended up going there, liked the coaches.
Talk about a little bit, if you want to, why you
Absolutely.
transferred.
Yeah, no doubt. So it was actually a crazy story. So I mean, like I said, first offer as a freshman, they were my first offer actually. Ended up getting a bunch of offers after, but built up this amazing relationship with their coach. Freshman year all the way through senior year of high school. So that's like an almost 4 year relationship of us talking on a regular basis, getting
Yeah.
super close, and then 3 weeks before I'm supposed to get on campus, he gets fired. So, well, fired slash resigned, whatever you want to call it, but really crazy situation, actually all over the internet, reasons why, crazy stuff. Don't know how much of it's true, but nonetheless, wasn't the coach anymore. So now I have to play for a coach that I'd never really talked to.
Yeah.
He'd been the pitching coach for 1 year there, but kind of didn't have much of a role, never really talked to him on the phone. So I get there and all of a sudden playing for this new guy, and he wasn't the worst human ever, but I didn't have a great experience playing for him and didn't love my teammates. Then also another factor was being class of 2023 and being freshman year when I got offered. That was COVID time. So when I went on all these visits, you're not getting a true feel for the campus because there's COVID. There's out of person classes. There's people with masks on. Not a lot of on
Yep.
campus activities. So me and my dad went to the visit there, and we're kind of like, hey, like when COVID's not going on, I'm sure this campus is great. I'm sure there's a lot of things going on. So we're like,
Right.
this is dead because we're in COVID times. And then I get to school and I figure out this is a school where a lot of people around Boston that don't get into like your BCs, your BUs, your Northeasterns,
Yeah.
Harvards. They go to this school, which is not a bad academic school. It's kind of a tier 2 school, and then they just commute from whatever suburb they live in. So I'd meet these kids in class that, were seemed cool and try to make plans, and they're like, I'm going home, I'm a commuter student. So there wasn't much of a campus life. So when you don't love the coaching staff and you don't love the campus life at a school, that makes it pretty tough, especially being far from home. So
And Bonaventure is definitely closer to
right, we're
Rochester.
looking at 6.5 hours versus 2. So I knew I wanted to get closer to home when I went in the portal. So yeah, ended up leaving there and looking for. And then from a baseball specific standpoint as well, they viewed me mostly as a reliever, which I will be this year for a few reasons. Some out of my control, some within it. But I ended up wanting to try to look for more of a starting role, which is what I had last year, and obviously didn't work out partially due to injury, but ended up leading me to here, which now at this point in time, I don't really care so much about the role. It's more just I'm really happy to be here because it's a great place here, so I'm super thankful.
And that's a great thing about Bonaventure. And I think no matter what you're doing here, a lot of people have good experiences here. What is the biggest difference between UMass and Bonas?
It's just the community for sure, and it's not necessarily the people's fault at UMass. Just this is just such
You
a
made
great
more connections
right.
here.
It's so tight knit here, which is what I love. With most of the campus living on campus, most of the campus, not commuting, either living in the town or
Yeah.
living right on campus here. So everyone's always seeing each other. People are forming great connections. Ton of school spirit. People getting excited about on-campus events, sporting events, music stuff, literally everything.
Yeah.
People are really passionate about here, which is cool to see everyone support each other and kind of be like a family, which is what I enjoy the most.
And when we talked to Chris, he mentioned a lot the baseball culture and how you guys are all really close friends and you hang out all the time. What's your take on that?
Totally agree. I think I loved the team last year. So when I transferred from my freshman year to sophomore year, I was like, wow, this is, so much better than the culture at my last school. And then this year, I think I like the team even more than last year. We brought in a ton of new guys, both freshmen as well as kids from community colleges that are transferring in, and
Yep.
I just made so many new friends. It's been so cool because this is my first experience of being a returner on a team and being able to because
You're
I was
not
a new guy
the new
twice in a
guy.
row. Yeah, so it's been amazing. Chris is totally right. We hang out whether it be at the baseball house or outside of baseball a lot at the baseball house,
Yeah.
doing other fun stuff. Going to movies or going bowling or whatever we're doing. Ton of cool stuff to do, and it's really like a brotherhood.
You keep bringing up being hurt and injured last year, which honestly I didn't know anything about. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about what happened last year?
Yeah, it was pretty tough. So I came in, with big expectations. I was our Friday starter, which typically would mean your best pitcher on the team. There was actually a guy you might have talked to him in the past on this show or something else, Michael Selena. He ended up
We've
getting
heard of him.
Yeah, he ended up getting drafted. So he was undoubtedly a better pitcher
Oh,
than
yeah.
me. There was other reasons I was starting on Friday and he was on Saturday. So he was our best pitcher. So I was like kind of like our second best pitcher. But so coming in with big expectations, and then in the winter time started to really develop some shoulder pain and didn't really know what was going on for sure. Then I was thrown in lives one time inside and really didn't feel good at all afterwards. And I was like, something just definitely got exacerbated, during that specific outing. So, went to the trainer. We started doing a lot of treatment, different regimens with that. Didn't get any imaging done yet, but I kind of knew, like in the back of my mind, like something was not right.
Yeah.
And started throwing through it. Like I said, started opening day. Started every Friday for like 7 Fridays in a row. I won our first 3 starts on Friday, which is pretty
I was
cool.
gonna say you had great stats from
Yeah,
last year.
which is pretty cool. But it was like every time I went out there, it started to hurt more and more, and velocity started going lower and lower, and it was like,
You hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
yeah, I'm kind of just hanging on at this point, and had like 3 really bad outings in a row. Then I had one weirdly where like it was hurting really bad, but I was like actually the best outing of my career at St. Louis. That was my second to last outing. But then the following week against St. Joe's, I was throwing like 8-9 miles an hour slower than I'm capable of throwing, and just in excruciating pain. So unfortunately, had to shut it down. Got an MRI, partially torn labrum, rotator cuff fraying, tendonitis in like 3 spots. So kind of the gamut of issues with the shoulder, and it's been a long road back, but I'm getting very close to being my full self, which is exciting.
Your pitching delivery went viral last season in March. When did you first realize it was gaining more attention than you thought it would?
Oh man, that night, as soon as the game ended, I opened my phone and like text my buddies because I knew they were watching, and just thanking them for supporting me or whatever. And then I started seeing all these chats on Snapchat, and I was like, that's weird. Like people that usually wouldn't reach out to me, like sending stuff. So I start like half swiping them, and it's like links to like different, really big platforms on social media or whatever. And I see myself, and I'm like, that's weird. So I opened Twitter and like tagged in all this stuff. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So when you play on a big stage like that, you definitely expect to get some traction, but didn't
Not like
expect for the
that.
delivery itself. I was thinking maybe, people just posting about the game or whatever, but that was pretty wild to see something to me that seemed, normal because I'm so used to doing
Right.
it, getting so much attention.
And I remember seeing it for the first time and going, that's a little crazy. Is there somebody in particular you model that after? Or
Not
is it just you
really.
just came up with it
No,
and
it
it
just felt
worked?
like there's actually after the fact, I found a quote from Nolan Ryan that kind of said the same thing, but my mentality was just going through the recruiting process. Velocity is such a big factor, and for good reason. Obviously, the harder you throw, the more margin you have for error with a hitter. I just felt like the higher my leg would go, like when I was throwing bullpens, like the harder I would throw. So at first there was a bit of a mobility issue. Like you can only get your legs so high, but then as I started training, alongside that with stretching and lifting and becoming a better athlete,
Yeah.
I started being able to get it higher and higher and throw harder and harder. So it just kind of, obviously, it can't get any higher now, but this is kind of,
I don't know if it
I
can.
don't think so. I don't think from an anatomy standpoint it can get any higher, but
If it would, you might be
yeah.
in some medical textbooks.
Right. So yeah, I just kind of did that to as a means to throw harder, and I feel comfortable with it because I am a super mobile person. Like I could do a full split. I can do some pretty crazy stuff. So it just feels pretty normal to me to do it.
Did that viral moment change any kind of perspective for you at all?
Um, I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a wide array of responses. Some people like thought it was the coolest thing ever. Some people thought it was like the goofiest thing ever. Were making fun of me or saying stuff like that. But to me, I just thought it was neat that to
People
be
really took it and ran with it.
right. So I
ESPN,
just
the
thought it was
MLB,
neat.
people were reposting it like crazy.
Shows you how small of a world the sports world is. Having being at a small school that a lot of people probably hadn't heard of.
Yeah.
Before, especially from a Division I standpoint. Basketball gets a little bit of attention, but in the baseball world, Bonaventure's not super well known nationally. So it shows you what a small world it is at something like that.
Before you get on the mound during a game, how do you get yourself in the right mindset?
So I started to in high school actually, with some anxiety issues and things like that. Started kind of reading into, what can make someone more confident and what can actually be proven to lead to more success. And visualization was kind of the thing that stuck out to me from different studies and stuff. So I go through now. It'll be different this year, and it was a little bit as a freshman being a full-time reliever as well. But I go through a visualization circuit. So when I was in high school and I was their everyday starter and knew the days I was starting as a pitcher and whatnot, it'd be 3 innings that I would run through in my head. So I would go through a 3-pitch strikeout and I knew every guy. Obviously, we watched film on everybody before we play them, so I knew what everybody looks like. It's seeing their face, seeing what side they bat on. If they're a thicker kid, a thinner kid, whatever the case is, seeing them in the box, seeing myself, leg go up. I'm looking at the third base coach or down the third base line, picking up my target, coming through, seeing the catcher catch it where I want to. So it's 3-pitch strikeouts every batter. So 3 innings would be 9 batters. So 27 pitches from start to finish, and each pitch would take about 30 seconds. Same way it
Yeah.
would in real life. I'm simulating catching it from the catcher, walking back to the pitcher's mound, foot on the rubber, everything through it. And that's something I still do to an extent now. It's tougher as a reliever because you kind of got to figure out, when you think you're going to go in the game and set aside time for it. But that's a big thing mentally. I do a ton of praying, very
Yeah.
faith-based, so that's a big thing mentally. And then physically, it's a ton of stretching, some light resistance stuff like bands and stuff to try to strengthen up some of the little muscles in your shoulder, especially now that I'm hurt. Some more PT-based stuff, and then a lot of sprint work. Try to get your body kind of primed to go out there and move fast. So
Yeah.
I'd say that kind of stuff physically.
Your personal life, when your thoughts may get clouded, what do you do to keep your mind focused?
I'd say just a lot of prayer in general. Just doing that, just kind of like relax, especially, even within the flow of the game. If I get the ball back and I'm kind of things are starting to speed up on me, there's guys on base or whatever the case is. I might say a quick prayer, kind of relax myself. Even when I'm getting on the mound and taking a sign, just something quick.
Yep.
Certainly the dugout in between innings as well.
What is the fastest pitch you've thrown?
Last fall, I was up to 94 twice in the same bullpen, which was pretty exciting.
That's a fast one.
Yeah, so I was now just got back up to 92, which is good, but it's tough because I know I'm stronger than I was
Yeah.
then, so I know I have more in me, but it's just my arms kind of mentally and physically got to get used to throwing again.
You got to focus more on where you're throwing the ball, not how fast you're throwing the ball.
That's true, yeah, that as well, absolutely.
Towards baseball and maybe your college career, maybe your career in general, who influenced you the most? Whether it be your parents or your best friend or anybody who pushed you to be your best.
I mean, I'd say my dad definitely pushed me a lot. We worked out a ton growing up. Did a lot of time at the field, throwing, taking ground balls, taking swings. So he would definitely spend a lot of time trying to make sure I was able to do the best that I could. So I'd say probably that for sure. And he still comes to all my games. So
He
I'd
still
say.
comes to all the games.
Yeah, pretty much.
With your dad, is there one story with him coaching or helping you train or playing baseball that will stick with you forever?
Um, well, I'd say like the not necessarily one specific, just because like we've had so many times working
Yeah.
out or whatever. But growing up in the basement at our oldest house, we moved a lot, but at our oldest house when I was really young, we used to write in chalk because we had like a concrete like asphalt type unfinished basement, and he would throw balls like lacrosse balls, those balls that have like the dots on the side, so they like hop and bounce different directions. He would throw them off the concrete wall, and I would with my bare hands have to try to field them. And we would write every day in chalk like 1/3, whatever the date was, January 3rd,
Yeah.
whatever, how many I successfully fielded. And like it was all the way around the whole basement, like every day, for like a 3-year stretch. So when we moved, we actually took a bunch of pictures of it, and it's still like cool. I have the pictures, like the earliest days of being, like 5, 6 years old and like training at a high level already. It was like definitely a big impact probably on how I got to the level I was at.
What is your definition of success?
I'd say just being able to do the best you can based on where you're at. You know what I mean? So like, some people I feel like people that might have a better career than me or better career than someone else might have regrets because they didn't push their body to the max. You know what I mean? Like we even have guys on the team, still, or any team you're on ever in any sport will have someone that will leave with regrets because they didn't push themselves
Yeah.
as far as they can. So I feel like success is every day finding the ability to push your body to the max and do the most that you're capable of doing. Because then if you're having fun with your teammates, like at the end of the day, you took care of everything you could control in terms of pushing your body, training as hard as you could, doing as much as you can, because then whatever happens, you can live with it because you did the best you can. So that's kind of where I've been at with the injury. There was so many times,
Yeah.
I had 2 failed return to throws, both in the summer and yeah, early summer, late summer, and then I wasn't able to get on a mound until like almost Christmas time. So it was tough. There were so many times where I wanted to be like, like what does it matter? Like I've been working out 3, 4 hours a day on my PT and still
Yeah.
not getting better, not having any success. And I just got to the point where it was like, I have 2 years left of college. Like if I work as hard as I can every day and never feel better and never have a successful outing again, then like there's nothing I can
Nothing you
regret.
do
Like I
about
did
it.
everything I could. So there's so many times where I forced myself to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel proud of myself at this point now that I know that I don't know that I'm gonna have a great season, but I do know that I'm gonna be out there competing with my teammates and with my close friends. And I think then if I keep that mindset the rest of my time in college, it'll be guaranteed to be a successful career.
Is there any area athletically or personally you're looking to improve on this year?
I'd say just some specific ranges of motion with throwing, some like external rotation as a thrower, being able to sit back farther. So I'm working really hard, and we do a lot of what's called correctives. So
Yep.
we do these assessments with a group that's independent that comes in, and our coach hired them, but I was previously working with them to help rehab myself. So they look at pretty much all the areas that you're weak at from a range of motion standpoint, and they give you specific exercises to fix them.
Oh.
So I've been spending a lot of time doing that every day, trying to move better. I think strength is always something that's important because the stronger you are, the more force you're putting into the ground, the harder you're going to throw. So like today, I had a pretty big lifting day. So I'd say strength and just range of motion.
You are a Dolphins, Sabres, and a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
How in the world did this happen, and how does it work?
Oh, well, I mean, the Dolphins, unfortunately, I really had no choice on. It was a family thing. So kind of the worst fan base to be brought into, pretty much. I mean, especially being someone who was born in 2004. I mean, I'm 21 years old and I've never seen a playoff win. It's about as bad of a stretch as you can have. The Sabres doesn't get much better.
No.
Hopefully this year we can turn the corner, but it's my local team, so that's kind of
Yeah.
the simplest answer. So I mean, just all my friends are Sabres fans when I was little, and so I just started becoming, a fan, obviously, of that. And then the
That's-
Red Sox, similar reason. I mean, there's no local baseball team. No offense to the Canadians, I'm not going to support a team that's not in my own country, so I'm not going to be a Toronto fan. The Indians are 4 hours away. The Pirates are 4 hours. Nobody's super close. Those are small market teams. So I was
Yeah.
like pretty much Yankees or Red Sox. And when I was a little kid, I don't even know if it was the mascot or what. I was just gravitated towards the Red Sox. And I was
Yeah.
5 years old and I got my first Red Sox hat. I just told my dad, like, I like the Red Sox. And he actually grew up an Orioles fan, so there was no influence from him. So I was just like, I like the Red Sox. And ever since then, I've probably watched 157 Red Sox games a year. Like, you probably won't find someone who's a bigger Red Sox fan than me. So I just kind
That's
of just stuck.
crazy.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw that in your bio, I was just like,
Yeah.
as a Buffalo girl, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Like I'm a
everybody questions it.
diehard.
That's awesome.
Diehard Bills fan, love the Sabres, Yankees all the way. So when I saw that mashup, I was just like, how in the world did
At least we
that
agree
happen?
on one team. I mean, I
There's
don't
no
know.
bandwagon there.
I don't know what's worse though, because we at least had the low bar. You get your heart broken in the most
I
disastrous ways
know.
every year.
I know.
It's a repeating nightmare that I wish would stop.
I'd almost rather have just not make the playoffs or just lose in the first round.
I'm a
Yeah.
Cowboys and Buffalo fan, so
But-
I get the best of both worlds. As a baseball girl, because I
Mm-hmm.
love baseball, I love the Yankees, and I've been now to Pittsburgh Stadium and Cleveland Stadium. Out of all the stadiums either you've been to or you played in, what's your favorite?
I mean, I don't think it's possible to beat, the smell, the history. Literally, like, it's like walking into a cathedral when you walk
Yeah.
into Fenway Park. Like, there's literally nothing like it in all of sports. That's got to be the peak. My second favorite is tough. Coach Raz took us to St. Louis last year, which was a blast. So when we played against St. Louis University, we went to the Cardinals game on our last day. I think that I got that second for baseball. And then, for baseball, that'd be my top two for sure. I like Camden Yards a lot, Baltimore. That'd be my top three, I'd say.
What is something you hope people will learn about you from this episode?
I think just, I guess like a lot of obstacles, having gone through that, you can, for other people that might play other sports or might be doubting themselves or going through an injury or, having some sort of other issue going on, that you can overcome a wide range of things, both,
Yeah.
Anxieties, injuries, struggles with being at somewhere, teammates that are tough or whatever the case is, that you can find somewhere that's really cool to play at and just don't lose your passion for the game, I guess, which is kind of, just keep working hard.
Well, James, thank you for coming on Off
Absolutely.
the Clock today.
Absolutely.
And we enjoyed having you, and we look forward
you.
to what comes next. Stay tuned for new episodes every Friday, and have a good night, guys.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.